What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat. Welcome to my Nightmare Matchup series where I talk about nightmare matchups for champs in each division. Edition 2022. I'm going to be doing these yearly, at least once or maybe twice each year, depending on how many title changes. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about nightmare matchups for champs in each division, each weight class, and it'll either include one standout contender or maybe multiple runner-ups who I see as potential threats to whoever is the world champion. And I'm going to go in order. And I'm going to start with the smallest weight class in the UFC, the women's strawweight division. And your women's strawweight champion, once again, Magnum Zhang Weili. She became a two-time champion last weekend when she dethroned Carla Esparza. When she won that fight in dominant fashion and won by second round submission, in which I did predict, by the way. Zhang Weili, pound for pound, one of the best female fighters on planet Earth. And in her weight class, she's almost in a league of her own. Not many of these strawweights come close to her in terms of skill, not even athleticism, strength. Weili has it all. She is an athletic specimen. She's so strong, so powerful, so well-rounded, elite level striker, but also an elite level wrestler as well. Very good grappler. She has multiple ways she can beat you. Zhang Weili is a worthy title holder in the women's strawweight division, and she has all the tools, I believe, to be a dominant champion, and she very well may be on track to being a dominant champion. She just got her belt back, and she has potential to be the next strawweight GOAT. However, if there's one person in this division that is a true threat to Zhang Weili, that person is someone that's already beaten her twice and is still lurking in the top of this division, in the top three, and that is Thug Rose Namajunas. She is the only strawweight that is on Weili's level, that matches her level of skill, matches her level of athleticism. She's just as well-rounded as Zhang Weili. And if I'm quite honest, she's almost better than Zhang Weili in certain areas, like the striking. I believe she has a speed advantage over Zhang Weili as well. And not just an overall striking advantage, I believe she has better pure boxing than Zhang Weili, better striking defense than Zhang Weili. She has everything you need to be a stylistic kryptonite to Zhang Weili. She has height and reach on Zhang Weili, along with really good distance management to neutralize the powerful short-range inside boxing of Zhang Weili. Namajunas never stays in the pocket too long. She's very good at sticking and moving. She's got better footwork than Weili. She's very elusive, very slippery, very hard to hit clean, but she's also a very good counter puncher as well. But Rose can also hold her own in the grappling against Zhang Weili. She can threaten takedowns on Weili. She can defend takedowns against Weili. If she gets taken down, she's good off her back, but she's also good at avoiding damage from bottom and then getting back to her feet. She's like one of the only girls in this division who's able to tame that fire of Zhang Weili. Most girls aren't able to do that. A lot of girls who fight Weili, they take damage. Weili runs through most, but not when she's in there against Thug Rose Namajunas. And Rose, as a title challenger, she hits different. I believe when she's the one fighting for the title as opposed to defending the title, I believe she's a lot more dangerous, as shown against Joanna Jędrzejczyk when she fought her the first time. Knocked out Joanna in the first round as a title challenger. Then once again as a title challenger, she knocked out Zhang Weili in the first round with a head kick. Title challenger Rose is scary, and that's one major thing for Zhang Weili to look out for in a trilogy against Rose Namajunas. And Rose is gonna have that confidence knowing that she's already beaten Weili twice. You know, she's ended Zhang's title reign once. It's very possible she can do it again, and Thug Rose is definitely a major threat to Zhang Weili's title reign, and it will not surprise me if Rose is the one to end Weili's reign once again, but we'll find out. The level of danger that Nami Yunez brings to this matchup is a 7.5 out of 10. Now we move on to the women's flyweight division, and the only true nightmare matchup for Valentina Shevchenko, the women's flyweight champion who is dominant, who's been unstoppable, who's ruled the flyweight division for many years. She finally met her match in Taila Santos in a fight where I thought she lost. I think Santos should be the champion right now, but there is a rematch that will happen in the future, whether it's immediate, whether Taila has to work her way up. However, Taila, out of all the flyweights, has the perfect style to beat Shevchenko. She has everything you need to dethrone Valentina. To give Shevchenko problems, you have to have size and a strength advantage combined with superior grappling. Because Valentina Shevchenko is the kind of fighter that, even though she's great on the feet, she's that good to where she can beat you at your own game. Unless she's smaller than you and weaker than you, then she cannot grapple with you. And we saw in that fight, whenever they locked up, whenever Valentina tried to go for takedowns, she'd end up losing balance, falling over herself, and then Taila would catch her in positions where she didn't want to be, where she'd take her back. Taila has the ability to win this fight through offensively grappling, looking for takedowns. She can take down Valentina and control her on the ground, and she can win rounds because of it. The only adjustment she needs to make in this fight is being a little more active on the ground with a little more ground and pound so that she can make these rounds more decisive, because we know she can get control time on Valentina. But like I said, she's got the size, she's got the grappling, and if you have that, you can beat Val. And with what Taila brings to the table, it limits Valentina to only one option, just using her striking. She cannot use all facets of MMA, which she is used to using against her opponents. And Taila did not really offensively wrestle in the first fight. Taila Santos would usually let Val be the one to try and initiate takedowns. She'd wait for Val to make a mistake. But in the next fight, if Taila Santos is the one who's actively looking for takedowns, we know she can take her down if she wants. And Val will be in a lot of trouble if they do end up on the ground. And the level of danger that Santos presents to Valentina Shevchenko is a 6 out of 10. And Taila also has the youth advantage as well. She's younger than Valentina. Val is getting older. Soon she's going to leave her prime, and Santos will only get better by the time they fight. So there is a huge chance that Shevchenko will lose the belt to none other than Taila Santos. Now, moving on to the women's bantamweight division. The women's bantamweight champion is Amanda the Lioness Nunes, the double champion, the GOAT. She's dominated this division for 6 years, winning the belt twice, only one slip up in the last decade. However, I do believe she's not 100% safe just yet. I do feel there is one potential threat out there to her crown. Someone who is lurking in the top 5, who is climbing their way up and could be next to fight for the title, and that woman is Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana has some of the best hands in the women's bantamweight division, very sharp on the feet, one of the best overall strikers as well in the women's bantamweight division and in women's MMA overall. She's very tough, durable, so Amanda's not just gonna run through her and get her out of there that easily early on in the fight. And Aldana also has very good composure under fire as well. A lot of women, when they get hit by Amanda Nunes, they do panic. They either get timid and gun shy, or they get emotional, they try to get it back and it costs them the fight. But Aldana, I believe she can get hit by Amanda, she can take it, but without being timid, without being gun shy, but at the same time, all the while, not trying to get it back. I believe she can stay disciplined, stay composed, and pick the shot she needs to without putting herself in danger against Amanda Nunes. And I believe overall she's rounding out her full skills as a mixed martial artist. She's improving her ground game, improving her takedown defense. And Amanda Nunes, she can mix it up. She does go for takedowns. That is a path to victory for her against Irene Aldana. However, if Aldana is able to consistently defend takedowns and force a striking match on Amanda Nunes, Nunes can be in a lot of trouble because Aldana is a threat to her on the feet and she does have a puncher's chance. Nunes, she can get hit, she can get hurt. We've seen this in a couple of fights with Pena, with Germaine de Randamie. And if those other girls are able to find the success that they do on the feet against someone like Nunes, someone with the power and accuracy of Irene Aldana could 100% capitalize, and she could actually be the first woman to actually one-shot KO Amanda Nunes. She does carry that kind of power. Nunes can't mess around in a firefight against Irene Aldana. She's just way too dangerous. And Irene Aldana, she is evolving, she is improving, she is getting better, she is entering her prime, peaking at the age of 34, whereas Amanda Nunes, just due to all the mileage and, you know, the damage she's taken recently and the fact that this cut is definitely getting a lot harder for her and that she's been at it so long, she's not as hungry anymore. She's more than likely to slip past her prime very soon, which very well could increase Irene Aldana's chances at beating her. And the level of danger that Irene Aldana brings to this matchup against Amanda Nunes is a 5 out of 10, which means there is a 50% chance that Aldana could be that next person after Juliana Pena to upset Amanda Nunes to take that title and be that next women's bantamweight champion. Now, moving on to the men's flyweight division. We all know the flyweight champion is Deiveson Figueiredo, the two-time flyweight champion for over 2 years. And of course, the nightmare matchup for Deiveson Figueiredo is the #1 contender and the interim champion and a familiar foe who he's already fought 3 times, who he's about to fight for a 4th time. That's right, the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno. These two fought 3 times, and the first time it was a draw. The second time, Moreno dominated and finished Deiveson, and the third time, the one time that Deiveson finally got him, the one time that he won, it was extremely close. He wasn't able to dominate him, and he depended on the judges to win that fight. But a different set of judges we could have been hearing, and still, Brandon Moreno has everything to counter what Deiveson does best. Deiveson is a powerhouse. Moreno is durable. He can handle power. Deiveson is not the most technical on the feet. Brandon Moreno is a lot more technical with his striking overall and his boxing. And I do believe he does have the cardio advantage. Deiveson Figueiredo is an exceptional grappler, dangerous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but Brandon Moreno also is good on the ground. He can survive in bad situations on the ground. He can threaten takedowns on Deiveson Figueiredo. He can also out-scrap Deiveson, very scrappy. He can win in brawls. He can hurt Deiveson like no other can. But what did trouble Brandon Moreno in the trilogy against Deiveson Figueiredo? Now, I may be contradicting myself a little bit, but he got sucked into too many slugfests against Deiveson. He played into Deiveson's game. He tried meeting him head on with power, which resulted in him taking unnecessary damage when he didn't need to, and ended up getting hurt against Deiveson, which ended up winning Deiveson some of the rounds, which ultimately did cost Moreno his belt. And also Deiveson Figueiredo also was able to land a lot of leg kicks in that fight. And if Moreno, if he can avoid those brawls and stay disciplined, stay behind the jab, keep it technical, stick and move, and make an adjustment around those leg kicks of Deiveson Figueiredo, then Deiveson is going to have a hard time against Brandon Moreno. And Moreno is still a huge threat to his throne and has a huge chance of dethroning Deiveson in the 4th fight. And the level of danger that Brandon Moreno presents to Deiveson Figueiredo is a 7.5 out of 10. And the runner-up on this list is Alexandre Pantoja, a solid staple in the top of this division for a long time. And he's very similar to Deiveson Figueiredo in many ways. He's just as durable, just as scrappy as Deiveson Figueiredo, very powerful like Deiveson Figueiredo. He's a threat everywhere, on the feet and even on the ground. He's got that submission threat just like Deiveson. However, Figueiredo, he is one step ahead, but they did have that fight a few years ago. It was very back and forth. It was very close, but it was decided by some knockdowns of Figueiredo. He had bigger moments where he had Pantoja in more trouble, but Pantoja has improved a lot since then, and I do believe in a rematch, he does have a very solid chance at beating Deiveson Figueiredo with the right adjustments. The next weight class I'm going to be talking about is the men's bantamweight division, and the men's bantamweight champion and still Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling. He's endured all that disrespect. He's overcame a lot, and he overcame his nightmare, which is Piotr No Mercy Yan. Shocked the world by defending his title. He flipped the script. He was supposed to lose the belt to him after winning it by DQ, but he's still here, and he just recently dominated TJ Dillashaw, eliminated one of my nightmare matchups for him. However, I did mention Piotr Yan, and even though he is on a losing streak, Yan is still there in the top 5, and if he does climb back, I still do see him as a nightmare matchup for Aljamain Sterling. Reasons being, he has very good takedown defense to stifle the offensive wrestling of Aljamain Sterling. He's very hard to finish, whether it be on the feet or on the ground. He can defend himself on the ground. Sterling had like 10 minutes of control time on his back, wasn't able to finish him, and Piotr Yan overall is the better striker than Aljamain Sterling. So if Aljo is forced to stand with Yan, and Yan's able to avoid getting his back taken entirely, and they're just striking the whole fight, then Piotr Yan will win this fight. Aljo will have some success in the striking, he always does, but Piotr Yan eventually will catch on, and he'll slowly but surely break Sterling down, pick him apart throughout the rounds, and he has the threat of maybe being able to knock Sterling out, because Yan does hit very hard, or he could just win a decision. He was on his way to winning the first fight before the DQ, and arguably should have won the rematch, but it is what it is. Stylistically, Yan is a tough matchup for Aljo, and I could definitely see him winning a trilogy somewhere down the line if it happens. And the level of danger Yan brings to this matchup is a 6 out of 10. And the second nightmare matchup for Aljamain Sterling, this was tough because there's not many people who really match well against Sterling apart from Yan, but I choose Marlon Chito Vera. I do believe he could be a dangerous fight for Aljamain Sterling. Chito is very tough. He starts very slow, but he gets more dangerous as the fight goes on, and he's a very dangerous striker. Aljamain Sterling would definitely need to get this fight to the ground, which he could, and he could dominate with his grappling. However, if he's unable to hold down Chito Vera for 5 rounds, he could very well actually be in a lot of trouble, because I think Aljo's going to have a hard time just staying safe on the feet for all 5 rounds. Vera is very good at eventually landing a kill shot somewhere throughout the fight. We saw this in his fight against Rob Font, Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz. He could very well catch Aljamain Sterling if they're striking for too long, and if Aljo is not able to hold him down for 5 rounds, it could be trouble for the Funk Master. And he has also struggled with cardio in the past. I do believe Chito does have a cardio edge over Aljamain Sterling. He does have a good chance of outlasting him, outdogging him if it does go into the late rounds. So it's definitely in Aljo's best interest to get Chito out of there early, because if he can't and it goes into deep waters, Aljo could be in a lot of trouble, and it does increase Chito's chances. All right, now moving on to the featherweight division. The featherweight champion is Alexander the Great Volkanovski. He's been a dominant champ. He's ruled this division for 3 years since 2019. He's getting better and better every fight, and he's just unstoppable. And to dominate Max Holloway like that and to close off that trilogy and beating Max all 3 times, I mean, it's like if Max can't do it, who can, right? However, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I do still think there are some dangerous contenders out there who could pose threats to Alexander Volkanovski, more than one, but my first choice as a nightmare matchup for Alex would be Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. What makes Yair such a threat to Alexander Volkanovski is his striking, his stand-up. It's very unpredictable, very creative. He's very tricky and unorthodox on the feet. He's got dangerous kicks, dangerous knees up the center. But Yair Rodriguez, I believe his boxing is also improving. Yair is very durable. And I believe the only chink in Yair's armor, his only true weakness is his defensive wrestling. That has been a vulnerability in the past. Guys have been able to exploit that, take him down, keep him down. That's how Volk could beat him. However, I feel that is an area that Yair is slowly but surely kind of improving on, you know? He's not giving up takedowns as easily as he used to. He's a lot more prepared now to fight off his back. He held his own on the ground against Brian Ortega. And I think by the time him and Volkanovski do fight, I believe his defensive grappling will be even more improved. And if he can completely patch up those holes going up against Alexander Volkanovski, you know, in his grappling, and he forces Volkanovski to just strike with him, Alex can be in a lot of trouble against Yair Rodriguez, and that could increase Yair's chances at dethroning Alexander Volkanovski, because he can easily catch Volk with something he doesn't see coming and potentially get a knockout. Yair has a chance to catch anybody with a lethal fight-ending shot in just a pure striking match. And the level of danger that Yair brings to the table against Alexander Volkanovski is a 5 out of 10. And the runner-up nightmare matchup for Volkanovski is Josh Emmett. What Josh Emmett may lack in skill, where he does fall behind against Volkanovski, he makes up for it with his tremendous, explosive, one-shot knockout power. Emmett is capable of shutting anyone's lights out with one clean bomb, including Alexander Volkanovski. And I believe stylistically, Emmett brings a lot of things similar to the table that Chad Mendes did. Another short, stocky, powerful, explosive wrestler. But I believe Emmett is actually a better version of Chad Mendes. More powerful than Mendes. Better cardio to last with Volkanovski throughout 5 rounds. He's very durable. He's not going to go away that easily. And every round, Volkanovski is going to be in danger of getting clipped by Josh Emmett. Emmett could be losing the whole fight, and out of nowhere he could just land something if Volk makes one mistake, if he stays in the pocket for too long, or he exits the wrong direction. I could very well see him circling into a big right hook of Josh Emmett, and that could be night for Alexander the Great Volkanovski. He's obviously the better fighter, but it's not always the better fighter who wins. We see greats, they get caught all the time, you know, upsets, they happen all the time, and with the power that Emmett possesses, he very well could pull the upset on Alexander Volkanovski. And now for the lightweight division, the lightweight champion is Islam Makhachev. The champ has a new name. It's Islam Makhachev. Very dominant fighter. He's yet to be stopped. He looks unstoppable at the moment. You know, 11 fight win streak, 23-1. Everybody knows what he wants to do. Nobody can stop it. No one can stop Islam from getting a takedown. No one can escape from the bottom against Islam. He's got that crushing, dominant Dagestani wrestling style that no one can seem to deal with, not even Charles Oliveira. But Islam is also very well-rounded. Like, he is a puzzle. And it's going to be hard to really find a nightmare matchup for Islam Makhachev. But if there is a potential challenge for Islam Makhachev, it could be Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush is very similar to Charles Oliveira in many ways. You know, good on the feet, dangerous on the feet. He's got knockout power, but his jiu-jitsu is very good. He's good off his back. However, he's got better takedown defense than Charles Oliveira, and he's not going to be as willing to give up takedowns like Charles Oliveira was. And his style is a lot more composed than Charles Oliveira. He's not as wild, he's not as reckless, so he's not going to leave as many openings to really put himself in danger. I could see him doing a lot better than people would expect. He could definitely make this fight somewhat competitive. He could have his moments, but ultimately I would favor Islam to win this fight. And I'd say the level of danger that Beneil would bring to the table is a 4 out of 10. All right, now moving on to the welterweight division. We have a new welterweight champion, Leon Rocky Edwards, headshot bang, where he knocked out Kamaru Usman in the 5th round, ending his 15-fight win streak and his title reign. However, this division, the top of this division, is ran by some of the best wrestlers, some dominant wrestlers, and Leon, being a pure striker, he's really going to struggle to hold on to that title. And Kamaru Usman exposed that grappling, wrestling weakness in Leon Edwards. It's still there. That is a problem for Leon Edwards, and that is why Kamaru Usman is the #1 nightmare matchup for Leon Edwards, because that head kick wasn't the whole story. Kamaru Usman was handily winning that fight 3 rounds to 1 before that head kick landed. And 9 out of 10 times that kick does not land. And outside that head kick, Leon didn't really show anything to state that he's that much better than Kamaru Usman. He struggled dealing with the wrestling, wasn't able to stop the takedowns. Usman was able to control him on the ground throughout the entirety of almost each round whenever he did take Leon Edwards down. And Usman does have a massive strength advantage, which does actually make his wrestling a lot more difficult to deal with. And Usman already beat Leon Edwards before, and the first and the second fight were very identical to each other. And within 7 years, Leon Edwards still had no answer for the wrestling of Kamaru Usman, and I don't know what difference 6 months is going to make. And if Usman doesn't get caught by anything, which he most likely will not, there's a high chance that Usman could take back that welterweight strap from Leon Edwards. And the level of danger that Usman brings to this matchup against Leon is an 8.5 out of 10. And the second runner-up is Colby Chaos Covington. Very similar style to Kamaru Usman, but not as much strength, not as much power, but he's a very dominant wrestler. His takedowns are hard to stop. They're relentless. He's got relentless pressure and high volume, and I believe that constant pressure would make it very hard for Leon Edwards to set up something like that high kick he caught Usman with. Colby Covington never takes his foot off the gas, never takes a step back, always going forward, and he does not slow down. And if he has Leon Edwards off the back foot, it's going to be very hard for Edwards to get off his best, most effective strikes on Colby Covington. Meanwhile, he's also going to be giving up a lot of takedowns against a really good wrestler like Colby Chaos Covington. And I believe Covington is actually a better wrestler than Usman with better wrestling technique. Usman's wrestling is more strength-based, whereas Colby, his wrestling is a lot more technique-based. So that's going to be even more hard to deal with for Leon Edwards going up against Colby. And if these two do fight eventually down the line, I could see Leon possibly losing the title to Colby Chaos Covington. And the third runner-up is Khamzat Borz Chimaev. He brings a lot of similar things to the table as Usman and Covington, but he's bigger than both. I believe he's got more power than both of them as well. He's literally a middleweight fighting in the welterweight division. He's a dominant wrestler, but he's got a jiu-jitsu threat, a grappling threat on Leon Edwards that Kamaru Usman didn't have. And Chimaev could easily take down Leon Edwards like he does to every opponent. And we saw Leon, he gave up his back multiple times against Kamaru Usman. You can't do that against Khamzat Chimaev, because if you give up your back, he's not just going to look to hold you in place like Usman. Khamzat Chimaev will quickly wrap up your neck and put you in that rear naked choke. And unlike Usman and Colby, Khamzat Chimaev, he has youth on his side. Usman and Covington, they're on the older side of their career, whereas Khamzat, he's young and he's still evolving, he's still getting better. And I believe by the time he does get a chance to fight Leon, he's going to be a more complete fighter than what he is right now. And he is a threat to that throne and has a very high chance of dethroning Leon Rocky Edwards. All right, now moving up to the middleweight division, the new middleweight champion is Alex Poatan Pereira. He just dethroned his rival, Israel Adesanya. But Alex Pereira, even though he's the champion, he's still very inexperienced in the sport of MMA. He matches up very well with Israel Adesanya, but I still believe he's in danger of losing that belt. There's a lot more guys in this division who are capable of beating him. And one guy that truly does stand out to me as a threat to Pereira's throne is Robert the Reaper Whittaker. He is the nightmare matchup for Alex Poatan Pereira because he's got better wrestling than Israel Adesanya. And what was Izzy's downfall is that Adesanya, he never truly developed his offensive wrestling in MMA. He's been so focused on defending takedowns, but when he actually needed to be the one going for takedowns, he really struggled. Whereas with Whittaker, he's developed his takedown defense and his takedown offense, and he blends in his striking with his takedowns very well. Good setup for his takedowns. I think he's got better cardio for 5 rounds than Alex Pereira. I can also see him hurting Pereira on the feet as well. He's a very good striker. Pereira is there to be hit. Adesanya was able to hurt him in a few moments, and Robert Whittaker does a lot of damage. And if Whittaker has more time than Adesanya did, and he catches Poatan the way Izzy did, I could see Robert Whittaker getting a finish on the feet. But if not, Whittaker has that option of being able to wrestle Alex Pereira round after round and just keep Pereira down, wear him out with the wrestling, and he has potential to eventually finish him in the late round. And I can actually see Whittaker maybe getting a ground and pound TKO, if not a sub, towards the end of round 3. Adesanya, it looked like he was gonna finish Pereira on the ground, but once again, he ran out of time. But if Whittaker has him in that situation, I could definitely see him getting a finish. And Robert Whittaker is the most well-rounded, most complete middleweight, and would definitely be the most complete opponent that Pereira would go up against. Pereira would have to worry about the striking, but he'd also have to worry about the wrestling of Robert Whittaker. Robert can confidently strike with him if they're not grappling, but he has that option to take him down if he needs to. And I think the level of danger that Whittaker brings to this matchup is a solid 8 out of 10, and there's a very high chance that Whittaker will be the guy to take the belt from Poatan's hands, if not Adesanya in a rematch. Now, up next, the light heavyweight division. The light heavyweight champion is Yuri Denisa Prochazka. Very exciting champion to have in the UFC. He's got such a fun, exciting style, very aggressive, very explosive, unorthodox, creative, very dangerous on the feet. However, there are some tough matchups ahead for Yuri Prochazka, and one of them being his next opponent that he fights next month, Glover Teixeira. That was a very close back and forth fight they had last time out, but Glover was ahead 3-1, and Yuri had a lot of adversity he had to overcome. He gave up 5 takedowns. Glover had him in danger on the ground multiple times, but not only on the ground, he was even hurting Yuri Prochazka on the feet. And he was on his way to potentially winning a decision, but he had a judgment lapse in the 5th round where he jumped Gilly after rocking Yuri Prochazka. But if Glover can go in there and maybe find that same success he did last time, which is very, very possible. If Glover just fights a bit smarter and doesn't make the same mistakes as last time, then he has a very good chance at getting the belt back from Yuri Prochazka. And the level of danger that Glover does bring to the table is a solid 6 out of 10. The runner-up is Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev is a very dangerous opponent for Yuri Prochazka. He's got very good striking, but his striking is a lot more measured and composed compared to Yuri Prochazka, and he's a dangerous counter puncher. And Yuri, he can leave himself open with the way he does pressure, and he could potentially get caught by something devastating against Magomed Ankalaev. This would be a very tough fight for Yuri, although he can get it done because Magomed can be a bit passive. Yuri would have to be very smart with his aggression to get it done. All right, now for the final weight class. That's the heavyweight division, and the heavyweight champion is Francis the Predator Ngannou. 6-fight win streak, and he's just looking unstoppable. And Ngannou, he is a freak of nature, terrifying man. He's got the touch of death, one-shot knockout power, and if he lands clean, that could be it. But he's also further developing as a full-on mixed martial artist. He's now a complete fighter. He can defensively wrestle. He can offensively wrestle. This guy is a problem. However, if there is one nightmare matchup for Francis Ngannou, I believe it is his last opponent, Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane is a better, more technical striker than Ngannou, and he's the only guy in this division who can actually neutralize the power of Francis Ngannou because of how elusive Ciryl Gane is. His only problem where he fell behind is he was giving up takedowns mid-fight when Ngannou turned into a wrestler. However, Ciryl Gane is a lot younger. I believe he is going to improve with better takedown defense and added experience. I could very well see Ciryl as the man to dethrone Francis Ngannou on his second attempt. And the level of danger that Ciryl Gane brings to this matchup is a 7 out of 10. But that's a wrap for my Nightmare Matchup Series 2022 edition. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, share this video if you can. Be sure to subscribe, and peace out.